Alright, here's the review for quiz 1 here for stats. The first type is to determine if you're what the population and what the sample is for this. So it's not determining whether you have a population or sample, it's identifying both the population and the sample for this scenario. So here it says we have a survey of 1,350 US adults found that 60% think the credit cards tempt people to buy things they can't afford. So here, if we're looking at the population for this, you're thinking about what it is they're talking about as a whole, how they're collecting the sample. So here they're collecting it from all the US adults. So that would be your population. And then for the sample here, what you would have are those 1,350 US adults, the ones that were surveyed. So remember, the population is the whole, the sample is the portion that's either being surveyed or being collected data from. For number 2 here, we're trying to determine if the numerical value that's described is a parameter or a statistic. So remember, a parameter is coming from a population and a statistic is coming from a sample instead. So here it says 70% of a sample of 1,500 US adults said, and then the rest of it. So the main thing there, since it says it's collected from a sample and not from all US adults here, that would mean that you're dealing with a statistic since it's from a sample. And then, like it says, you need to make sure to explain. Just like all of these, you want to make sure to explain your answer on the quiz. So here, one way you could explain it is because the data is from the sample of 1,500 US adults. The key there is that it's coming from a sample, and that's why it's a statistic. If it was coming from the entire population instead, then you'd be dealing with a parameter instead. So make sure to read these carefully whenever you're taking the quiz in class. For number 3, this type you're going to have to determine if you're dealing with qualitative or quantitative data. So remember, qualitative has some sort of characteristics, so maybe like hair color or eye color, something that does not have any type of numerical significance. And quantitative is the opposite. You have some sort of numerical measurement that you're dealing with. So here we have how much each person weighs on a wrestling team. So this would be quantitative. One way you could explain it is because weights are numerical measurements. So if your numbers are just purely there as a listing method and they don't have any type of significance, then it would still be qualitative. But if they have some sort of significance, some sort of measurement to them, like a weight or height or something like that, then it is quantitative instead. So make sure you're reading those carefully too. And then the last type here is to identify the sampling technique that's used here. So in this case, we had that a student asked every 8th person in line whether they prefer to watch a movie in theater or at home. So in this case, since they're asking every 8th person, that would mean that you're dealing with a systematic sampling. And one way you could explain that is because every 8th person is asked. And I'm going to list down below here just a reminder what some of those other types of sampling techniques you could have. So some possibilities you could have for this type of problem are census. You could have a simple random sample. Remember, census is everyone's included. A simple random sample just like it sounds. It's random. There's no type of technique or anything else that's used. Purely random, like picking a name out of a hat. You have your stratified and your cluster as well, which remember are breaking them up amongst different groups depending on if you're done with the location or if you're talking about where they're already located from. And then we have our systematic that we have here, and convenience. And of course, you can always go back through the video that I had from section 1.3 to go back through these different definitions, or you can also read back through them in the book, where systematic, once again, is every so many people being selected. Convenience is also from going through, like it sounds like it's convenient, like selecting your friends to ask questions of.